All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And thank you so much for being here with us today as we discuss the art and science behind scaling a property management business. Quickly, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Matthew Olarsh, and I am Guesty's Director of Customer Success for EMEA. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we are the leading short-term rental property management platform. I would like to briefly highlight a few reminders before we get started. If you haven't already, please make sure you can hear us by adjusting all of your audio settings. Don't forget that you are automatically muted, but although we can't hear you, you can click on Q&A box in the bottom of the screen to submit any questions. If you do have to leave early or want to rewatch the session at a later time, we will be emailing you the recorded version after the session ends. Joining us today are prominent thought leaders from the travel and short-term rental ecosystem. Please welcome Dunsey Kaufman, CEO of Sojourn, Ben Painter, co-founder and CEO of Dromor, as well as Fabio Cardoso, COO of VHC Hospitality. Thank you all for your participation today. In today's virtual event, I will begin by sharing some of Guesty's data and insights, and then I will invite our panelists to discuss the art and science behind scaling a property management business. We'll then begin our live panel discussion and conclude with an interactive Q&A featuring questions from our audience. I want to start by sharing our data, which shows that holiday booking volumes are primed to be some of the best yet, including extraordinary average nightly rates. In some parts of the world, prices are surging at the end of these August and September summer months, and with that, travel will come at a premium. This should be no surprise considering the pent-up demand to travel, leading guests to book further in advance, resulting in less inventory to choose from closer to the desired check-in dates. In both the US and UK, reservations will in general cost 33% and 19% more respectively compared to last year, and 48% and 20% more respectively compared to 2019. It is important to also note that over the last 4 weeks, we have seen a minor 3% uptick in cancellations of vacation rental bookings across the US. However, this is not a significant increase, meaning consumers still intend to travel amid the Delta variant. Today's cancellation rate for vacation rental bookings is almost the same as that of this time last year prior to vaccine distribution. That said, 1.5 years into the pandemic, with travel demand at an all-time high, we are at the highest booking volume we have seen in 2021. Things do look positive, however, there are still many unknowns. Moving onwards towards this holiday season, our data shows very promising figures. However, it is important to note again that we will see fluctuating numbers in terms of booking volume due to new variants like Delta coinciding with flu season. That said, as of today, Thanksgiving 2021 reservation volume in the US is already 81% higher than 2020 and 26% higher than 2019. Furthermore, in the US and UK, Christmas is projected to be the most expensive holiday period of the year. In the US, Christmas reservation volume is 58% higher than 2020 and 82% higher than 2019. And in the UK, Christmas reservation volume is 480% higher than 2020 and 2.6% higher than 2019. This data highlights that given the threat of new variants, consumers are still planning to travel over the holiday season and opting to book alternative accommodation. This trend is certainly logical, considering that most short-term rentals are more private in nature compared to traditional, crowded hotel stays. Continuing on, short-term rentals have officially gone mainstream, and alternative accommodation has become the #1 lodging choice for certain traveler groups. The pent-up demand for travel has resulted in consumers traveling regardless of the risk associated with new COVID-19 variants. As a result, these travelers are seeking out stays that are private in nature with the amenities of a hotel and the comfort of home. For example, travelers who want to prioritize safety by avoiding traditional, busy, crowded hotels, especially for parents with unvaccinated children, remote workers, as a result of many corporations postponing the mandate of employees returning to the office due to a new variant, and lastly, digital nomads, who are continuing to be a key revenue stream for short-term rentals as they experiment with extended stays in various locations, life shopping, and test driving the concept of living like a local in many cities. We have also seen guest expectations changing amid the pandemic. Today's average traveler is taking extra precautions and expects less human contact. This aligns with tech-forward hosts providing contact-free experiences via keyless entry systems and digital concierges, amongst other tools to manage their team's tasks remotely. Automated messaging tools are also crucial to communicate important info like check-in and check-out instructions. These mentioned operational tactics are mainly in place to limit human contact between guests and staff, and if you're not marketing your listings as tech forward, it's time to consider doing so. On the note of communication, you should prepare to implement additional automated messages for guests on specific recurring topics, included but not limiting to your safety cleanliness practices, local restrictions regarding COVID, as well as activities inside and outside of the property to keep your guests occupied. As guest communication is the most time-consuming part of the job, I would like to make a quick note that at Guesty, we offer a 24/7 guest communication service to do the work on behalf of our users. Lastly, it is important to mention that consumers will be more confident to book if you offer flexible cancellation policies, especially given the threat of new variants and the uncertainty about the future. Furthermore, considering that your guests will potentially have to spend more time in your units, consider marketing more than just your lodging. You can showcase the lifestyle that guests can live in rental with posts on your social channels that highlight your work from home spaces, dedicated exercise area, movie subscriptions, and so on. Now, if we have learned anything from the impact of COVID-19 on the travel industry, it's that adaptable business plans reign supreme. Short-term rental businesses across the globe, like the Guesty users featured in the press snippets here, have shown incredible resilience and compliance during one of the most challenging periods the hospitality sector has ever seen. They have done so by shifting their strategies to meet changing guest needs and expectations. For example, Dromor, one of today's speakers, was featured in the Sunday Times just the other week, highlighting their shift to include long-term reservations to accommodate travel personas in need of extended stays. Furthermore, by keeping a finger on the pulse of the travel community and positioning themselves as a leader in the space, property management companies can also earn the kind of attention that can establish themselves as major hospitality brands leading the new age in travel. Here you can see two more examples, including D. Alexander. This Guesty user launched a highly successful isolation destination campaign. In doing so, they were able to attract guests looking to pass the pandemic in stylish properties equipped with everything they need to either work remotely, attend virtual school, and/or keep themselves entertained. Mint House as well was able to attract a multitude of guests to their rentals with light touch tech solutions that limit human interactions. And this leads us to Guesty. Guesty was built with the understanding that professional hosts and property management companies have a ton of tasks to accomplish on a daily basis. Whether it be listing distribution, staff management, report creation, accounting, or guest communication, our software provides solutions that help them automate these tasks in order to save valuable time so they can scale their businesses without sacrificing quality. Throughout COVID-19, our automation technology and ability to streamline and centralize operations has been a massive asset for property management companies, making it easier for them to quickly pivot their businesses and function with leaner teams. As such, we will continue to ensure our platform is flexibility as we navigate 2021 and beyond together. It's also a great time to evaluate one of the most time-consuming and prone to error tasks that a property manager has to deal with: accounting. Over time, the needs of professional hosts and property management companies have evolved. And as our users have evolved, so have their accounting needs, which is why we want to highlight our solution, Accounting by Guesty. Our new best-in-class automated trust accounting capable system will eliminate repetitive tasks while keeping your business running smoothly. So, what does it take to scale a property management business? That's what we're going to discuss here today, starting with Dunzi Kaufman, CEO of Sojourn, who will share how she has scaled her business in recent months and provide tips for other property managers. Over to you, Dunzi.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for Guesty for inviting me to participate on this panel. As Matt indicated, I'm Dunzi Kaufman, and I'm the CEO of Sojourn. Sojourn is a relatively new hospitality and property management company that I started with Nicole Pace in June of 2019 in Washington, D.C. I mentioned the market where we launched because Sojourn is very much a company that has built its model as a hybrid property management company around the distinct rhythm of the DC market. At inception, Sojourn's primary objective was to create a high-touch, luxurious furnished rental experience. We had a few goals in mind. These included, on the guest side, offering a seamless, flexible, and elevated experience for the corporate traveler or tourist that comes in and out of the greater Washington area. We really set out to crack the code on how to offer concierge level service in a disparate environment. On the owner side of the equation, we wanted to offer the same flexible and seamless experience, as well as the concierge level of service. In terms of this flexible service, we partner with our clients to identify the best use of their real estate assets, and in so doing, figure out how to maximize their revenue. In the rhythm of the DC market, the hybrid approach, one that allows for nightly rentals during certain times and monthly renters during other times, when people are really coming for extended work assignments, internships, and etc., is a perfect fit. So Sojourn started as what I call a hybrid property management company. Nicole and I decided at the outset that we would focus on building and perfecting the high-touch hospitality service concept for the furnished business model and to grow it organically. What started as a hospitality company focused on hosting guests in the short and mid-term furnished market has grown into a flexible and nimble full-service hospitality and property management company committed to applying an ethic of exceptional quality and unsurpassed service in everything we do. As we grew and started to onboard more sophisticated real estate investors, we discovered what they needed was a consolidation of service offerings. And so we brought on Desmond Adams. Desmond allowed us to mature from hospitality property management to full service property management. We'd been trying to identify how to manage the facilities piece of the business. And so we decided to bring it in-house and then expand its breadth to include full asset management for our clients. The development of this vertical, while solving many issues, brought new challenges, one of which was identifying the best supporting technology. We started to consider raising money to build out the technology, and then COVID hit. Sojourn was not even a year old when COVID hit. And as we all know, there was a deafening silence in our industry at the onset. Anyone who does business in this area in DC knows that springtime is the time when we recoup all our revenue. And COVID happened to hit right before springtime. So as a new company, we were looking forward to that revenue, and that revenue never came. We swung totally into survival mode, both for Sojourn and our owners, and we became totally reactive rather than proactive. Trying to find guests and accommodating the new kind of guests, notably the ones out to congregate, get away from their families, have parties. Of course, there were also the other guests that Matthew mentioned, being the ones looking for workspace, those that had to quarantine. In DC, we had a lot of State Department evacuees that needed housing immediately. But really protecting our properties from unruly guests without shutting out legitimate guests required a lot of attention and constant adaptation. The saving grace for Sojourn during COVID was that we were already doing monthly rentals, and we were well established in those channels prior to everyone pivoting there. And we were still young and nimble, so we were able to find the guests and go aggressively after them. While our margins were nowhere where we wanted them to be, we did manage to maintain 85% occupancy for our owners during COVID. In addition, as I've alluded to, Sojourn was built on the revenue sharing model rather than the WeWork model. So during COVID, all we had to do was focus on generating revenue for our clients, and ours would follow suit. With that said, many steps we were taking to build a luxury brand were sidelined, and in fact, we moved to cut costs. Interestingly, as we cut costs, we correspondingly saw our value ratings decline. I like to call this the single-ply toilet paper effect. Despite the trials of COVID, because the pace was much different, we were able to focus on growth and onboarded new properties, established new partnerships, and built out our team. As we moved to reset the brand, we have returned to old suppliers, executed on many of the partnerships we were building pre-COVID, and we returned to building our brand. To that end, we are testing the scalability of our model by entering into other markets, notably Northern Virginia, where the opening of Amazon's HQ2 and the technology space in general has created enormous demand for the hybrid model. And in Southern Virginia, in some beach markets like Virginia Beach and Ocean View, where we are exploring the more traditional vacation home. With every new market comes new challenges, especially in the area of compliance. Each new jurisdiction has its own rental rhythm, but also has its own regulatory framework. And getting the zoning, taxes, and short-term regulations right is something we must do if we're going to provide the seamless service that we purport to. As you can see, year over year, Sojourn continued to grow during COVID, both in terms of doors and revenue. We are estimating inventory growth in 2022 of 60% and projecting that revenue will more than double. These projections presume no major shifts in our operating paradigm, which of course is not our current trajectory, so they are very conservative. As we grow, it is important for us to ensure the continued equilibrium between supply and demand, especially in these unpredictable times. We have to be able to attract or find the customers for our properties. So we manage onboarding of new properties with our ability to fill those properties. We are also relatively selective in the properties that we onboard. We have experienced a lot of difficulty in onboarding properties that require a lot of work. In trying to build a luxury brand, we have to ensure that our properties do or are capable of meeting the requisite standard, and that the owners are willing to make the investment required to implement the elevated experience that Sojourn is promising. Sojourn was established to solve the conundrum of how to provide high-touch personal service in a disparate environment. The idea is to perfect the business model, test it in various markets, and then leverage technology to scale it. So for us, as we set out to establish efficiencies, we have to ensure that whatever we implement internally does not disrupt our external objectives. The perfect example of this is deciphering when to use a call center as opposed to using internal human resources. When we say we are a service company and not a technology company, it is because we believe that hospitality and property management are services, and we are looking to leverage technology to establish our brand in the service industry rather than have technology drive our presence. This requires us to find the right mix between efficiencies and redundant, repeatable process and ensuring the ethic of unsurpassed personal service remains. Finding the right technology to power our business model requires analysis at every angle, because everywhere that we can incorporate technological efficiency, which supports our expansion and our consistency, we have to be cognizant of our end objective. In building our tech stack, we not only have to be cognizant of the effect it has on the provision of our service, we also have to be cognizant of the percentage creep and how each level of technology that we incorporate cuts into our profit, unless, of course, we decide to develop our own. There are a ton of new SaaS providers in this space, all of whom are filling a need and facilitating independent property managers. But each service comes with a cost, both on the integration and the spend. I would say that the three big areas that we rely on technology for, in addition to calendar and channel management and all the other wonderful things that Guesty is rolling out, which Matt mentioned at the beginning, and we have incorporated into our business, and they actually have really helped us to grow. But in addition to that, is guest interaction and experience, security, i.e. fraud protection and guest vetting, and protection of personal information, as well as payment, as we do direct booking through our websites and through manual interaction. As Sojourn continues to grow, it becomes harder to manage the equilibrium between technological efficiency and our desired personal service levels. We have some great partners that we are working with in addition to Guesty, such as DAC, which is really helping us build up the customer interface side. And we are always speaking and being contacted by new SaaS companies. And we are researching them all as they come to market in an effort to maintain this integral equilibrium. While COVID remains something we all have to be concerned with, Sojourn is back to focusing on perfecting the service model, building our team, testing new markets, and integrating the right technology to facilitate our objectives. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing Ben and Fabio's presentations. Back to you, Matt.
Thank you so much, Dunzi. I will now invite Ben Painter, co-founder and CEO of Dromor, to share how he got started and further discuss strategies he used to grow and scale his portfolio. Over to you, Ben.
So hi, my name is Ben Painter. I founded Dromor back in 2017. Just a little bit of background on the company before I sort of really kind of get into it. Company kind of started out of an idea that came in London. Me and my co-founder were sort of annoyed and also aware of the problem that in London you would buy a flat for a huge amount of money and then you were going to pre-buy return on it in terms of yield. I think at the time that we set up Dromor, the average yield in London was maybe around 3% on a property. So we looked at a way that you could increase a yield on the property, and we looked at everything at the start. You know, we looked at renting out properties for film or photo shoots, and basically we found that short-term rentals was consistently the best way to improve a yield. So then the package that we offered came into, hey, you rent a one-bed flat out for £1,500 a month for a long-term let. We can do it for £2,500 a month, but hey, Airbnb's a lot of work, so let us do the full management for you. And that was kind of what we did for the first few years. We started in London, we expanded quickly into Cardiff, Manchester as well in the UK. And it came into a full-time project in which I led that. Pre-pandemic growth was pretty steady. We were doing about 50% year on year. Particularly at the time that we were active in London, there was a huge amount of competitors who were doing huge raises, a massive scale of growth. And we definitely want to do that eventually, but we wanted to kind of get used to the market, really understand it before we did that, and experience some growth of ourselves. And the plan was to start all of that in 2020. Obviously, I don't need to explain what happened in 2020. Everyone can kind of take a guess to what happened there. But obviously, it gave us a really good opportunity to kind of step back and really take a look at the business model, what we were doing right, what we were doing wrong. And we actually ended up redesigning a whole new model for the business from scratch. And then in July 2020, we implemented that. So basically, having lost a lot of business from the first half of the year, by the end of 2020, implementing this new model, we managed to see 146% growth in 2020. And in 2021, at this time right now, we have grown 220.8% on the growth we saw in 2020. So it's going quite well. So some of the challenges that we have experienced with growing rapidly is maintaining the same level of service to new clients that you're selling on, but also to existing clients as well. We have noticed that sometimes when we take on a particularly big client, there is a drop in service. So it's really important to us to kind of work out where we're dropping in that service and how we can improve it. The big thing that will get out of control is guest communication. You know, if you take on a big new client, say you take on an additional 50 properties, and then that could be an additional 500 guests a month, depending on how you market it. So your communication flow is going to be huge. So you need to really try and keep that under control, because it can get out of control quite quickly. And understanding the costs that go along with that as well, how much a new contract is going to bring in for you versus how much it's going to cost you to kind of really deliver the right level of service on that as well. Managing your own time as a kind of head in the company that you run or own, and obviously your team's time as well. You know, you've got to keep your team happy. You can't see them pulling 12, 14-hour days day in, day out, because that's just not sustainable. Also kind of understanding where the capacity problems are going to arise and how you're going to fix it before it becomes a problem. So you've got to look 2 months ahead at all times, and that kind of thing. So how did we do it? How did we overcome these problems? We learned on Guesty quite a lot. Obviously, this is a Guesty talk, but independently, and I will to anyone that asks, Guesty has really helped us through this. They have huge amounts of automation possibilities, and the way that they have allowed us to automate so many things has been genuinely amazing. And we've been working with Guesty since 2017 now, and the kind of the difference from when we started with them to where they are now is huge. So we're excited to see what they keep doing and how much more we can automate with them. So get a good PMS and really lean on what they can do, and spend time getting all the automations right, because they will save you so much time in the future. We looked ahead at our future plans and possible cost savings. So we want to expand into Europe. We're starting our Spanish expansion right now. So when we were based purely in the UK, we actually started our operations hub in Barcelona, because we knew that we wanted to be in Europe. We knew that's where our biggest kind of marketplace was going to be in the short term. So we placed our operations out there, ran the UK from there, and then now it's starting to expand within Spain. Why did we come to Barcelona? Massive short net industry hub. You've got big call centers from Airbnb and Booking.com. You also have people like Hostmaker and Air Sorted here, whether they're still there, I don't know. LDNA, Rentals United, loads and loads of talented people, and they're all international as well, which means you can get a great span of languages across the team. I think we speak somewhere between 5 or 6 different languages, so that's very, very good as well. And compared to places in more northern Europe, such as the UK, where we're based, we're talking much lower salaries as well. So it's really, it allows you to hire more people for the same amount, which again allows you to increase that level of service compared to doing it in the UK, where you're paying more in salary, means that you obviously have less people. We also run a guest communications hub out of the Philippines. This is very good for us because we can throw quite a lot of people at it, getting the job done as well. They have an extremely high level of English, and the customer care skills are incredible out there as well. So anyone who's kind of working out options in how to do it, take time to look at doing something in the Philippines. I'm happy to answer any questions on that as well, because it's an extremely cost-effective way of doing things. And as long as you take the time to get them trained up correctly, they are absolutely incredible at what they do. The agency cleaners as well. So we didn't do cleaning in-house. We've always used agency cleaners, and this allows us to scale up or down in any city that we can within a relatively short period of time. We also use remote key solutions. We don't use in-person check-ins. Reference to what Matt said at the start as well. Guests don't want people checking them in anymore, or at least the vast majority don't, and this works massively in our favour, because it means we can rely more on tech, it means we need less people to operate, which means we can keep the cost down and the reliability up and the service better. So that's all kind of good, and that's how we do it. So what do we plan to do in the future? Obviously, as of yesterday, the summer has ended. So obviously being the busiest time of the year so far, and realistically the busiest time since summer 2019, we've had a lot of lessons and a lot of things that we have learned, which we know that we can implement ahead of December, our next busiest market. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be continuing growth on the B2B side in the UK and Spain, which is where we've seen most success. Anyone that takes a look at our website and branding may have noticed it is a little bit ropey. So we are going to rebrand the company with a new website and increase our online presence as well, to try and win more business from kind of areas that we're not looking into at the moment. And we are actually in the stages of looking to raise as well, to increase the Dromor model across Western Europe and the US. Any questions or anything that people want to talk to me about, please feel free to get in touch. I'm more than happy to talk to you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ben, for sharing that intriguing story with us.
No problem.
Last but not least, I will now invite Fabio Cardoso, COO of VHC Hospitality, to speak about how his company handled obstacles that emerged from scaling his business and how incorporating technology helped overcome those challenges. Over to you, Fabio.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you all, Guesty team, for the invitation. Thank you all the audience. So let me go over a little bit about VHC. VHC was founded in 2017, and in 2019 it was acquired by CVC Corp Group, CVC Corp is the largest tour operator in Latin America. They are based in Brazil. Our headquarters are in Orlando. I think Orlando, in the area of Kissimmee, is one of the most competitive markets for short-term rental. They have more than 40,000 homes here. And our strategy was always to focus on the distribution. So a part of the traditional channels such as Airbnb, HomeAway, we have a very strong B2B strategy, selling to tour operators and travel agencies all over the world. So this was the base for our growth, and CVC was one of our clients. They liked our model, and they decided to buy the company, and we started to define a plan in 2019. So today we are now achieving 400 properties in our portfolio. We have presence in 3 markets: USA, Brazil, and Dominican Republic. We provide services for management, rental, and concierge is one of the pillars that we work very hard, and we believe that is helping us to make more profit on the rentals. As I told you, we have basically 3 sales channels that we work. We sell B2C, direct to the guest, and we invest a lot on social media and strategies on internet. We have B2B, the tour operators and travel agents, and of course the B2B2C. There are the channels, the traditional channels that we work with. Our operation is multi-language, so we have our staff speaks English, Portuguese, and Spanish, so we can provide the services for all types of clients that we target. And we also have the multi-currency properties in dollars and Brazilian reais because of our presence in Brazil. Our strategy is based in 4 pillars, as I was telling at the beginning. The first of them is the distribution, the channels. And then because of these channels, we decided to create a growth to other places than Kissimmee, because people are coming to staying with us. They liked our service, and they say, "Wow, now I want to go to Miami. Do we have properties in Miami? Or I'm going to here in Brazil. Do we have any properties in Brazil?" So again, the combination of standards and distribution is the pillars of our operation, and the things that we have to focus, and the difficulty of the growth, because we, as Ben mentioned, we have to keep the standards everywhere that we are with the number of properties that we have, and the costs have to be low. Then comes the technology, because we use the technology to be able to have more services and provide solutions to the property owners and to the guests and to our sales channels. So we use the technology to provide efficiency and savings to our operation, combine it with the guaranteed bookings and revenues coming from our channel, and the experiences that we offer to the clients. So for example, clients, when we started the COVID, borders closed internationally, so nobody was able to come to US. So what we're gonna do with the Brazilian clients that we work, and they represent around, the international market represents around 30%, used to represent around 30 to 40% of our sales. They were coming and they have to stay 40 days in quarantine, either in Mexico or in Dominican Republic. So I said, well, let's accelerate our expansion. Let's open it up in Dominican Republic so we can host those clients coming, staying 40 days there, and then coming to US to enjoy our homes in the US. So this was one of the strategies. The other strategy was they couldn't travel. So let's accelerate and open our operation in Brazil so they can use our services and stay on our homes, have their vacation, but within the country. So we started the operation in Brazil, and always offering experiences, concierge service to the guest. So the services can be inside the home or at the destination. So for example, coming to Disney, we offered tickets to the parks, car rentals, or during the COVID, people didn't want to leave the house. So we offered to stock the house with grocery, to heat the pool. If they want extra cleaning because they stay longer, we could provide the services. And this is extra revenue for us. These are the technologies that we use, everything integrated with Guesty. Guesty is amazing. They have an open API, and with this API, we can connect all types of services. So based in Guesty, we have the pricing that we use beyond pricing. So this is the strategic that we have also to see the increase of revenues, because we are able to target and to charge more depending on how much the homes are being looking for. We develop our own channel manager to connect the clients that we want to sell to, the tour operators, travel agencies. So with this gateway, we also have a connection with the online check-in. It's connected to the door and to the system that we use. So guests do the online check-in, have all the experience over the internet. We use Pipefy to create our pipeline of homes for the organic growth that we have. All the property owners that contact us, we have all of them listed in Pipefy, so we can see our churn, how much property owners that are interested in our services, and etc. The services that we use for experience, we're implementing the Your Welcome tablet concierge services. So we offer within the home, even before the travel, we offer the services, but when they are inside the home and they decide to buy anything, they have the tablet available and they can buy directly from the tablet. We also use AirDNA to provide estimates to the owners. So when they reach us, we can create an estimate and explain them how much we're willing to generate in revenue for their property. And this is our expansion plan. So we are again based in, we have already operations in US. We have now in Florida, and we're expanding to other states in US. We are in Brazil already in a lot of states. Argentina is going to be another country that we were going to work with. Some countries in Europe and Caribbean. We started already with Dominican Republic, and we are growing operations to Mexico and Bahamas. And this is how we want to expand our revenues and be able to serve our clients worldwide whenever they want to go for their vacation. This is a summary of VHC Hospitality. I'm available if you have any questions. Obrigado, gracias. Thank you very much. Matthew is with you now.
Thank you so much, Fabio. And again, a big thank you to all of our speakers for those insightful presentations. Now we will move on to the Q&A session. And we'll start by asking a question to all of our panelists. First for you, Dunzi. Let's start by sharing some of the growth strategies that you put in place at the start of the pandemic. What changes exactly did you put in place during those stressful moments?
Well, at least I figured out how to unmute myself. As I said, I mean, Sojourn was so new, and we had already built our model based around the hybrid model. So in that sense, we didn't really have to change our structure. What we really had to change was where we got our guests from. So we were really proactive and aggressive in that regard. I have to call out my partner, Nicole, because we went after, well, obviously nurses was a great monthly renter. We went all these different sites that we had been on. We went after students who were being kicked out of their dorms and yet needed to maybe be on the East Coast if they lived on the West Coast to stay in school. So just really coming up with creative ideas to find guests, because as I indicated, Sojourn's based on a revenue share model. So we really, our owners relied on us to find them that revenue, and we relied on finding them that revenue, because without that, we'd have no revenue. We did do some other things, as I mentioned, like obviously cut costs, things like that. And we repositioned our listings to really, as some of the platforms started to focus on the monthly renters, we repositioned some of our listings. The thing about monthly renters, and this has kind of been sort of, at least it's an issue in the very much an issue in the US, is this sort of, are they transient guests? Are they landlord tenant guests? And as those extra COVID protections for tenants came in the area, we really had to manage that aspect of it. And that was something that was very new. The other thing, as I mentioned, was sort of the complete change in the Airbnb guest, or that short-term guest, that and so we implemented all kinds of new restrictions on our sites. So if you were a local phone number, you couldn't book same-day bookings, just things like that. So we had to be creative in that regard. But I would say from our framework structure and where we were heading to sort of the keyless. I mean, all our properties are keyless entry. This non-touch, non-interaction type thing. Those were all the things we were already implementing. So so that's kind of how we dealt with it.
It's fantastic. Definitely some creative solutions. And I'm actually curious, Ben, if you on your side in the UK and elsewhere in Europe where you're expanding, did you have any similar growth strategies you put into place, or perhaps something different that worked specifically for you in Dromor?
I think for us, it was kind of a two-stage thing. So kind of as I mentioned in my presentation, like we completely redesigned our business model over COVID. But what's right at the start, it sounds like we did something very similar to Dunsey. Basically, we went through the approach of, right, owners, you're not going to get what you were getting before, but we're going to significantly discount your property and we're going to put it for 6 weeks or longer, and therefore you're getting something. Now, our main reason for doing that was actually to keep stock. We saw a lot at the time. Well, it's slightly different here in the UK, you have short term and long term, and there's different rules about that. So we saw a lot of our properties going over to the long term rental, and we were like, right, how do we stop that? Because we were speaking to owners who flipped a month before, and they were still sitting there empty, where we could have helped them, but we couldn't have a guest in while someone's trying to view a property, right? So we basically flipped to you're not going to get a lot, you're going to get something. And that kind of is what we did, I think, for the first 3 months of the pandemic. And it definitely extended throughout, because we had various lockdowns here. So it definitely was a strategy when we went back to at various different times. And then kind of what we did outside of that is the kind of new plan, is we looked at any property that would be empty at this time of year. Obviously, great example is student accommodation. Very, very few students went back into student accommodation. The students that did wanted to leave pretty immediately. So you had swathes of properties that were sitting empty. Tie that into the fact that in the UK, you had to isolate by law. So what we were doing is strategically targeting student accommodation that was on transportation links. For example, 20,000 people were still arriving at Heathrow every day during the pandemic and needed to isolate for 14, 10 or 7 days. So then we were bringing on blocks of studio flats along kind of a links into London and saying, right, okay, here's somewhere where you can isolate, and pretty much pricing it at a point where we were just slightly undercutting the market so that we would be the obvious choice for them. And that's honestly one of the reasons we saw such growth in 2020. And then 2021 is kind of pivoting again, because we understand that obviously that market is ending right now, because everything's going back to students. So then it's more, okay, so how do we take what we've learned and apply it to kind of the next biggest thing, which is what we're doing now.
Very, very interesting, and I'm curious, with a bit of a different business model, Fabio, if VHC, did you share any of these similar growth strategies to Ben and Dunsey, or is it perhaps a completely different?
Yeah, I think we were a little bit. I think we are luckier. The markets that we are in, we have a pretty good demand. So what we did first, we have to adjust the operation, because the type of guests they were coming, as Dunsey mentioned, so party people coming to the homes. So we have to understand like how to prevent them. Also the cleaning protocols that the prices went higher for cleaning, so we have to adjust all that. But again, we had the lucky of having the demand. And what we did also, as Danzy mentioned, we're looking for the guests, because for the first 2 months of the pandemic, we were not allowed to do short term, only 30 days rental. And for example, Orlando market, it's like completely vacation. People come to stay like 5 days to go to the parks and leave. But we were able to get some of these clients coming from other states from US. But what we did is this, trying to target other audiences and look for the clients, open operations where our clients are. So we opened the operation in Punta Cana, we opened the operation in Brazil, so we could serve and keep the revenues by adding new properties in different locations, so we could have like different types of clients in all areas.
Fantastic. It sounds like all three strategies were quite effective. And it's actually interesting with that, we just got a great question from the audience, extremely relevant. I hear it all the time from clients and PMCs across the globe, and I'll open it up to any of the panelists. Do you have any strategy for new leads, as in ways to get new properties to manage?
I can answer if you like. Yeah, I think for us, it is very much don't be afraid. We basically grew the business from extensive LinkedIn spamming, is probably the best way to put it. We make sure that we stay in people's inboxes, and we also cold call heavily, and that is how we've grown the business. We historically, and actually since COVID, we haven't spent anything on marketing, which isn't necessarily a great strategy, but we also have salespeople, and we're very, very aggressive with our approach in terms of bringing on new business. But I think for someone who's just starting out, the way I grew the business is, when I started it, is we have a website here called Gumtree, which is basically a free post thing. I think it's similar to Craigslist in the US. I'm not 100% sure. And basically people would put property adverts on saying it's for long-term rental, and I would call about 50 a day, committing to them to short that. And that similar style is how we've grown the property. We now do that with larger property companies rather than small people. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and keep staying people's inboxes, would be my advice to get new properties.
I would just say, I mean, we started off relatively local. And so I think focusing on the real estate market and finding, we've actually really had kind of couple different areas, but certainly large real estate investors, developers, to the extent that you can talk to them and see what their objectives are and see how you can help them. I would talk to realtors and maybe some like real estate meetup groups, like people that are looking for investments. Washington is definitely like a very specific market because you have so many people coming in and out, be it the embassies, the State Department, etc. People that own homes and are leaving for 3 or 4 years, and they want their homes to generate revenue while they're gone. So that's been an interesting area. But in other markets where we've been expanding, I think really focusing on like real estate meetup groups and places where you can contact people that are holding real estate assets that they need to figure out how to leverage.
Fantastic. Thank you both for those answers. Caroline, I hope that answered your question. Moving back actually to you, Danzy, a specific question. Part of scaling a business is finding new avenues to attract guests to book at your properties. Can you share a bit about how Guesty has helped facilitate your direct bookings and how that has helped your business?
Yeah, Guesty's new. I mean, Nicole and I started separately. I'm actually sitting in the building that my husband and I developed 6 units. And I was actually like a mother of 2 children practicing law and running this furnished 6 unit. And so I started using Guesty just as that. And I think it was Ben that mentioned like the trajectory of Guesty and the service offerings has been just incredible in terms of facilitating facilitating the growth of a property management company. So when we started, Guesty's open API allowed us to do direct bookings from our website. So that was the first thing, and that has been great. And I would say in terms of these new offerings, the new feature where you can, because we now have about 200 units. So when we actually still take calls, we speak to people, and that's again one of the services that we offer, is because we're people that are moving to DC for like 6 weeks or 3 months or whatever. We talk to them, we see, where are you working, what makes sense for you, blah, blah, blah. And then to go into our calendar and check availability at this point is impossible. But now you have that availability feature where you can put in the dates and specific parameters. And then it actually provides you with something that you can send to the potential guest, which is fabulous. That has been a great efficiency. And then I would say your invoicing feature. Because, again, the more you have to toggle back and forth between different softwares in order to accomplish an objective, there's room for human error. You don't have that efficiency. And so being able to book someone into the calendar, click, boom, send them the invoice, that has been great as well.
Fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that our product and partnership has allowed you, to see these successes. And really, especially around direct bookings and brand awareness, which we can all agree is definitely a big trend in the industry today. Mm-hmm. Ben, a specific and unique question for you, actually. Can you tell us more about how your team planted over 100,000 trees and what this initiative was all about? And has it helped you drive more bookings?
Sure. So kind of the idea came about because obviously, as I'm sure we've been aware, and I think it was around the time, I can only speak for what I'm seeing in the UK, I guess, but there was a lot of awareness around the amount of emissions that we used kind of in a pre-COVID life, and obviously an airline jet causes a crazy amount of emissions, which I think most of us were kind of blissfully unaware of as we jetted off on holiday. And one of the things that I became aware of coming out of COVID was like how much kind of emission something like that does. So then obviously running a travel business, we may not be causing the emissions directly. However, if someone is traveling to stay in one of our properties, I don't think it's right for us to ignore the fact and wash our hands of any emissions that are being involved, So what we basically did is we said, right, okay, at the start of this year, every booking we get, we're going to plant 25 trees. And there are people who can do this, and I'm more than happy to share the details of them, because I don't want this to be a USP for Dromor. I want this to be industry norm. So we said, right, we're going to plant 25 trees for every single guest that books, and then we're going to invite our guests to do the same. And when someone booked, they got a text message to their phone saying, we just planted 25 trees, click here if you want to do the same, basically. And through the Guesty feature, of course. And as a result of that, like I say, we started at the start of this year. I believe right now we're on over 130,000 trees, which I think is over 5-6 months. One of the other things as well is we also offset our individual employees as well. So they could fly something like 10 times a year, and we offset that as well to make sure that we are truly at least carbon neutral as a company as well. And it's honestly not that expensive to do. So the company we call is Ecology. I will put it in the chat, and I really, really recommend everyone to do it.
What a fantastic and unique initiative. And yeah, please do share. I'm sure a lot of our listeners in the audience would be happy to take part. Just aware of time, I'm going to ask one last question here, and Fabio, will direct this one to you. You did mention quite a bit about your tech stack. At what point did you realize that in order to really scale your property management business, that you were going to have to bring technology into your overall strategy?
To be honest, we did this since the beginning. Guesty was an amazing, just adding some comments to the question of Danzi and answering your question. The challenge was we want to use technology and we need a software that we could do everything under the same software. So we don't have to have like 10 softwares coming and going, like answering one platform and accounting another platform and taking the reports from another platform. So Guesty brings most of everything that you need, if not 100% of what you need is inside Guesty, and this helps us a lot. I believe the connections with the channels, the direct channels that you have, and also the API are very consistent too. So we see a big difference between the previous software that we're using and now. The level of bookings that we have, and we were able also to have a higher occupancy and attach it to beyond pricing and putting the same price. We could see also the prices going up, and we try to do as much online and with softwares as we can. So online check-ins, online reviews, online information, invoices, so everything using technology. So we're able to scale. The inbox feature is amazing. So you don't need like 1,000 people to answer all the questions from the guests. Everything's there. It's easy. You can answer through email, to WhatsApp, to whatever the client is looking for. So this is it's really important for us. And this is like the basic. If you don't have that, it's going to be impossible to grow the business without technology. Nowadays, no way to do it.
Agreed. Perfect. Thank you so much, Fabio, for sharing, and for Ben and Dunzi as well. With that being said, as we wrap up today's session, I would like to personally invite you all to our next virtual meetup. On Thursday, September 9th, we will be hosting a discussion with our great partner, SiteMinder, to discuss strategies to capitalize on new travel personas. We definitely look forward to seeing you there, so please do sign up. And to conclude, again, a big thank you to everyone for joining today, and thank you so much to our panelists, Dunzi, Ben, Fabio. It was really great to hear your stories and some of the answers to the questions today. We look forward to seeing everyone at the many upcoming virtual events we have planned for the short-term rental community, all of which will be posted on our events page at guesty.com. Again, please do not hesitate to reach out to meetup@guesty.com with any other questions you may have. Please, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe and healthy, and look forward to hopefully chatting soon. Take care.